Let's go!
This popped up over the last couple days, and I can't talk about it too much because my voice is like giving out. Automaton has a wonderful interview directly with Hamaguchi, going over the fact that the game will not compromise on graphics whatsoever, despite a multi-platform shift. Hamaguchi addresses these concerns, and this has been making the rounds a little bit, but I think the confidence in a few things sort of gets alleviated quite a bit. I want to not read from this article directly, take a little snippets out of this, so let's go down a little bit. I encourage you guys to check out this article. While it does feel reassuring to hear that from you, considering your background as an engineer, I also think it's a given that a developer wouldn't say anything negative about their own work before release. Could that be, we're interpreting it as marketing talk, so how would you address it? So yeah, Hamaguchi worked on several Final Fantasies and different projects before this, and that's why people might think that. Since I have previously had the chance to explain in detail why there's no need for concern, I do like to take this opportunity to do so. I heard all this talk that has been circulating since the Switch 2 and Xbox versions, and I can help ease even a little of that anxiety, and he'll be very glad. And then he goes into specifics about talking about the game quality, how they're probably approaching this. This might be a bit different. This might be a bit different than what they've done in the past. You know, even with Final Fantasy VII. When developing a game, there are 4 key points to consider across a platform. The first is CPU, computational side that governs character behavior, executes game logic. Second is GPU, which handles graphics and rendering. Third is RAM, or memory, which determines how much data can be loaded into the game when it's running. So you often hear that the Xbox Series S is difficult to make games for, and that's largely because it has less RAM compared to other platforms. Its memory is insufficient. It can even cause the game to hang, as in freeze or stop responding, and by contrast, the Switch 2 has ample memory, which makes it relatively easy to develop for in that respect. And finally, there's ROM, or storage media such as cartridges and discs, and in the past, we often had to reduce data size to fit within the physical media constraints, and broadly speaking, I believe these 4 elements are key considerations of game development. I break them down by one. Regarding the ROM, cart, and overall game size, the Switch 2 Physical Edition uses a game key card through which data is downloaded. That means we don't need to shrink the data just to fit it on a cartridge. Highly unlikely to affect the game size on other platforms. And as for RAM, the Switch 2's RAM doesn't leave for much concern because the Xbox Series S does have its limits, but we're already optimizing for each platform individually based on that limit. So memory constraints on one platform does not impose restrictions on the other. Now for CPU, I feel like there's been a shift over the past 4 or 5 years. Traditionally 30 FPS was the basic standard for console RPGs, but with the arrival of the PS5 and the Xbox X, we've entered an era where 60 FPS is expected. The main concern is that if development assumes hardware of a certain level as the standard, all platforms might be pulled from that level of quality. PS4 game, it's all being developed on PS4, yada yada yada. Most games in development, chat, are PS5 games, just in general. And I think even FF7 Rebirth, probably for the most part of its development, was a PlayStation 5 game. That might have changed at some point through its development. I think straight up, this is a new foundation of theirs moving forward, because if this game started as a PC game, we would have gotten like moving grass and shit, which was available in early trailers, but they had to pull back on, probably because of PlayStation hardware. What I think moving forward is that on a multi-platform perspective, which is what modern Square Enix is doing, this is the way they should be moving forward, which makes sense. Since PC gaming has gradually expanded, overseas growth has been even more rapid, the market has broadened tremendously across both console and PC. The Remake series has sold very well on platforms like Steam and Epic Games, so we develop assets with the broad PC market in mind. In fact, our 3D assets are created at the highest quality level based on the PC foundation. I don't know if it was always this way, but like, I think mostly moving forward, the third game especially, and future big Squaresoft games are going to be like this. It's what Capcom does. With FF7 Rebirth launch, there was this talk about how the PC version looked better than the PS5 version, and our philosophy will not change for the third installment. As our fundamental principle, we do not design assets to meet the lowest baseline. Instead, we create them for high-end environments first. When we apply what we call reduction, adjusting assets and tuning them appropriately for each platform, that means we avoid negatively impacting high-spec platforms. This isn't unique to us either. I believe it's become fairly common practice among developers in recent years, specifically Capcom. Ever since RE Engine started becoming a thing, and most RE Engine games would launch day and date on PC in like the late 2010s, yeah, Capcom is now at the spot they're at because of it, dude. One of the last games that did not launch day and date was pretty much like Monster Hunter World, and ever since then, dude, Capcom's just reaped the rewards as a Japanese multi-platform company ever since. Do you think them working on a multi-plat release is a reason why they haven't shown anything yet? Great question, and yes, I do. The discussion of all this multi-platform shit that's going on right now, and how much they've been asked about it, and how much they've been willing to talk about it. I've said time and time again that the game was likely going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and now I'm not so confident in that. I think shit has changed. I would not be surprised if the game debuts on every single platform at launch for part 3, which would be crazy if it is Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and Switch. And I'm leaning in that's going to happen now. The other likelihood is that it's PlayStation at the start, and it's a very short exclusivity. Like really short. PC serves as your lead platform, and even the PS5 Pro is treated as something to optimize for, like with other platforms. He says that's correct, by the way. When adapting the game for each platform, simply lowering the quality across the board isn't the necessary solution because this can compromise the intended visual expression. That's why we make sure to review everything by eye and fine-tune that for each port as it matches the original version. Yeah, the reaction to even the Switch 2 version of Rebirth, which is obviously lower quality assets, but like the visual aesthetic of the game, like if you step back, you know, you didn't Digital Foundry that bitch, they look pretty similar, man. Even FF7 Remake looks pretty goddamn similar to the initial experience you got on PlayStation 4. So it isn't just like, okay, just lower the graphical quality on everything. No, it's like fine-tooth comb. You got a guy that was an engineer at one point who's now a director. I think they know where to put their assets. So in the long run, even players on high-end platforms benefit from ports. Since I've already asked one tough question, let me add another. Some worry that going multi-platform means the development team isn't able to devote itself to the trilogy's finale. How would you address that concern? So that's a good point. If there's going to be a whole bunch of folks that are working on a multi-platform release, that means that the amount of personnel that are going to have to figure out and develop and make part 3 release is going to be less, right? He says, we have a dedicated unit within the team that handles porting, and they operate separately from the team that's actually developing the third game. The porting unit is deeply committed and has been tuning these versions with meticulous care, and I trust them and oversee their work from a distance. That allows me to focus on a third game. Development of the third installment is progressing very smoothly, and we're almost exactly on schedule with the milestones that we set from the beginning of the project. I'm wondering if he means the beginning of the project like Remake? He's probably talking about part 3. The game is already in a playable state. We've known this from before. And right now we're in the final push phase, refining and building up the experience. We're at a stage where the quality improves day by day. And each time we play it, the scenery feels different. So it's genuinely exciting. I think it won't be too long before we're able to share some kind of update with everybody. Take this with a grain of salt, chat, because even back in September, I think it was last year, they were saying stuff like this. Not too long from now, we'll be sharing information about the next game. Like, nah. I think what they mean is that like part 1 and then Rebirth and then eventually the next game. We also might have gotten spoiled a little bit because all of us were thinking it could have been one thing based on the way it had been before with Sony exclusivity. And there could be a little bit of that for maybe a future state of play. But they were like, hey, here is the Switch release. Barely even a couple weeks later, like right after the launch of the Switch version, they're like, hey, here's part 2 on the same system. Holy shit. And other systems, right? Wow, that just came out and it comes out in June? That's crazy. And then yeah, Summer Games Fest lines up right around June. If it is going to be multi-platform, I do think the scale of a part 3 reveal and it being an actual multi-platform game at an event that is not specifically for one platform, like a Nintendo Direct, like a State of Play, if you do it at a Summer Games Fest, bro, this time frame on Xbox, PC, and Nintendo Switch 2, then that is like a substantial announcement. That feels like a pretty goddamn big deal right after people are already getting to play Rebirth and there's reviews out and, you know, everyone's sort of experienced it. Don't have a teaser trailer anymore. People are just waiting. And then you just slam them with a massive trailer that shows a lot of different parts of the game. I legit think that's a possibility now, considering the fact that Jeff and Square Enix have had several massive reveals at Summer Games Fest and the Game Awards going all the way back to like 2020, 2021. Yeah, it starts to make sense, you know? I'm not sitting here hoping that it happens sooner or later. We know it's there. So at this point, I'm not like desperate for them to reveal it. I think the time will be right. The Gooch gets around? Damn. We cannot call Hamaguchi the Gooch. Chat, we're gonna have to chill.